Today's report brings you an update that could be one of the most significant you have heard in quite some time. The global foreign exchange market is experiencing extraordinary and historic activity, a development that many have followed for a very long time. Dinar and the Vietnamese dong are showing movements that are not characteristic of routine daily fluctuations. Instead, seeing trading windows hit expected spikes with some sharp enough to indicate that fundamental structural changes are taking place. This is a moment that is setting the stage for a new conversation for many years. The concept of a global currency reset or revaluation has been a subject of discussion across various platforms, from online forums to private banking circles. Much of the time, these expectations did not come to fruition, but that the current signals are different. We are seeing now is backed by tangible trading data and genuine institutional activity. This is happening against a backdrop of global economic changes, which makes this moment potentially unlike anything we have seen before. While many mainstream currencies are struggling with issues like inflation and depreciation, the dinar and the dong are emerging as noteworthy exceptions. Viewed as exotic or highly speculative, these currencies are now attracting a new level of attention. The central question on everyone's mind is whether this is the turning point that analysts and others have been quietly anticipating. We will move beyond just rumors to analyze the verifiable signals and what they could mean for the broader financial system. The conversation about the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar and the Vietnamese dong is no longer limited to speculation or hopeful discussion. The shifts are becoming clearly visible in live markets across several regions. Over the past few weeks, foreign exchange platforms in Asia, Europe, Middle East have been reporting movements that are far more substantial than the small incremental changes previously projected for the second half of 2025. What's particularly notable is not just the size of these price surges, but also their persistence. Trading desks are registering significant upward swings followed by sustained buying interest, rather than the typical corrections that often follow. This represents a major shift for global investors who are used to seeing these currencies as relatively illiquid or tightly controlled by government policies. The Vietnamese dong, for example, has historically been managed within a very specific and narrow band. Similarly, the Iraqi dinar has been under strict central bank oversight. That both currencies are showing rapid appreciation simultaneously is something that is not easily dismissed as a mere coincidence. This is prompting institutional investors, hedge funds, and even conservative financial institutions to reevaluate their positions. The contrast is even more apparent when compared to major global currencies, many of which are underperforming due to inflationary pressures, interest rate uncertainty, and geopolitical events within this global context. The dinar and the dong are starting to stand out. They are not simply holding steady. They are rising in value, which is attracting a wave of attention that is changing how conversations are held on trading desks around the world. Let's first look at Iraq, where the signals appear to be the most pronounced. The Central Bank of Iraq has historically maintained a strict peg, keeping the dinar tightly controlled against the US dollar. However, recent patterns on Forex platforms suggest that a fundamental change may be taking place during certain late night trading sessions in cities like Dubai and Istanbul, as well as parts of Asia, are observing spikes in demand for the dinar that are too dramatic to be classified as ordinary volatility. Reports of jumps of 5%, 10%, 15% in short trading windows are emerging movements that rarely occur without deliberate policy changes or a strategic shift. For a number of years, has been working to build up its financial foundation, reforming its banking sector, and implementing stricter anti-smuggling measures. They have also been channeling their significant oil revenues toward building credibility with international organizations. These reforms, along with progress in meeting standards set by the IMF and World Bank, have been laying the groundwork for greater economic independence. We might be observing now is the first tangible sign that Iraq is preparing for an adjustment of its currency's value, which could be either gradual or sudden. For those who have been following the dinar for a long time, the current situation is distinct from the past. Instead of just rumors or speculation, the evidence is appearing directly in live trades, signaling that Iraq's long-awaited financial breakthrough may finally be happening in real time. Now, shift our attention to Vietnam, where the pace of change seems to be even faster. Vietnamese dong has long been seen as a stable yet tightly managed currency that typically moves within a narrow range set by the State Bank of Vietnam. However, recent data points are painting a different picture, and multiple trading hubs, particularly in Singapore, Hong Kong, and Tokyo. Large volumes of dong are being acquired by banks and institutions, often in quantities far exceeding typical retail or speculative trades. This scale of accumulation strongly suggests that the preparations are underway for a structural change in Vietnam's currency policy, which could take the form of a controlled revaluation, a loosening of the peg, or a wider alignment with international markets. The timing of this makes sense. Vietnam's economy has been one of the fastest growing in Asia, supported by its expanding role as a manufacturing hub and as a key destination for companies relocating from other countries. With increasing exports, growing middle class, and steady foreign investment, Vietnam is in a position to showcase its economic strength through a more flexible currency. Traders who once paid little attention to the dong are now watching it rise against major currencies like the US dollar. This upward momentum is not being dismissed as mere noise. The fact that institutional funds are entering the market suggests that this is not a speculative bubble, rather a recalibration that global markets are quietly starting to factor in. So what does this all mean for individuals and institutions that hold the Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong? After a long period of uncertainty and speculation, patience may finally be yielding tangible results. Those who hold these currencies are no longer waiting for abstract announcements or unverified rumors. They are now seeing concrete market behavior that seems to validate long-held expectations. Major trading desks are now tracking currency pairs like IQUSD and VNDU are with a seriousness that was not present before. More tellingly, high net worth individuals who are private banking clients are being discreetly advised to monitor these developments. This type of advice is usually only given when institutions see a genuine potential for major shifts. In practical terms, this means that those who position themselves early could soon see their holdings' legitimacy being recognized at higher levels of finance. These currencies are no longer being dismissed as just speculative assets. They are now part of discussions about portfolio diversification and international positioning. For smaller participants, this underscores the importance of staying informed and being patient. For larger players, presents a possibility of reallocating funds toward assets that may significantly outperform stagnant mainstream currencies. The central point is that the legitimacy of these currencies is building and the momentum is accelerating. Both the Iraqi Dinar and the Vietnamese Dong are moving from the fringes of financial conversation to the center of strategic planning. When we take a broader view, the implications become even more significant. The rise of these two currencies is not happening in isolation. It appears to be part of a larger trend toward financial realignment. Nations in the Barai-Hies group, for example, have been openly advocating for alternatives to the US dollar, seeking to reduce its dominance in global trade licensed by Google. At the same time, the International Monetary Fund has been hinting at reforms and recalibrations to global monetary systems. Within this environment, and Vietnam seem to be emerging as early beneficiaries of this shift. Trading volumes for both currencies have reportedly doubled or tripled in a very short period, creating a self-reinforcing cycle where algorithm-driven buying encourages further demand and magnifies the price action. To experienced Forex traders, this behavior has all the characteristics of pre-revaluation activity, the kind of acceleration that often precedes major announcements or formal adjustments. For those observing the global stage, the timing is difficult to overlook. The world is transitioning toward a more multipolar economic structure. Currencies that were once considered peripheral may soon play larger roles in international trade and investment. If Iraq and Vietnam position themselves correctly, they could use these global changes to strengthen their domestic economies and improve their international standing. This would transform their currencies from overlooked assets into key components of a more balanced financial system. The question of why now can be tied to the concrete progress both nations have made recently. In the case of Iraq, the last 6 months have shown a clear story of advancement that kind of sped up its transition toward digitized banking, taken aggressive action against black market sellers, and advanced its compliance with international financial standards. Both the IMF and the World Bank have issued rare commendations for Iraq's progress, which signals a new level of credibility. At the same time, oil exports remain strong, providing the country with the hard currency reserves needed to support a stronger dinar. The foundations are in place for a new chapter. On the other side, Vietnam's economic fundamentals are equally compelling as global supply chains have diversified away from other regions. Vietnam has been a primary beneficiary. This has led to an increase in foreign direct investment, an expansion of its export capacity, and a fostering of strong manufacturing growth. With these supportive factors of Vietnam's economy has become one of the most dynamic in Asia. In short, both Iraq and Vietnam are financially stronger, more integrated into the global system, and more institutionally credible today than they have been in recent decades. Those who have been following the potential for currency revaluation, this alignment of domestic reforms, international recognition, favorable economic conditions creates a powerful situation. This helps to explain why we are seeing such sudden and dramatic movements in both the Iraqi dinar and the Vietnamese dong, and why this moment could indeed represent the long, aided turning point in their financial paths. Behind the scenes, banks are getting ready for what could be one of the most significant financial shifts in modern times. Evidence suggests that commercial and central banks are quietly accumulating reserves of both the Iraqi dinar and the Vietnamese dong, while also upgrading their internal systems to handle faster transfers and higher volumes for these currencies. Actions on this scale do not happen by chance. They indicate a degree of foresight or an awareness of upcoming policy shifts. Banking institutions are typically cautious when it comes to handling currencies that are considered politically sensitive or unusual. So when they begin to adjust their systems, it is a strong signal that something substantial may be in the works. One of the most telling aspects of this entire situation is the silence from official sources. Neither the Central Bank of Iraq nor the State Bank of Vietnam is rushing to make public announcements that would calm the speculation. Instead, quiet approach allows the markets to respond organically, almost as a form of stress test before formal actions are taken. In this kind of environment, its silence can be more informative than words. It suggests that leaders are observing, measuring market demand, analyzing how both retail and institutional players are behaving. This strategy gives them flexibility. If the markets prove resilient, an official adjustment could be announced. If volatility becomes too high, they can quietly step back. Regardless of the outcome, the preparatory signs within the banking sector are becoming too strong to be ignored. Momentum, as every experienced trader knows, is a powerful force. Momentum is exactly what we are seeing with both the dinar and the dong. Once a currency appears on institutional radars, it gains a level of visibility that can quickly grow. Automated trading programs that are designed to capitalize on price swings can automatically amplify even small upticks, turning them into surges that attract even more attention. This creates a self-reinforcing cycle. Increased demand leads to higher prices, which in turn attracts even more demand. We have already seen both the dinar and the don't test notable highs in recent sessions, development that would have seemed unlikely just a few months ago. If this momentum continues without being checked, the pressure on banks and governments to take action becomes enormous. Policy adjustments that once seemed optional or far in the future suddenly become urgent. Governments are well aware of this dynamic. They understand that when speculative and institutional money converge on a currency, the result can reshape financial landscapes very quickly. For Iraq, it may mean accelerating discussions about revaluation. For Vietnam, it could force a loosening of its currency peg or a shift toward greater flexibility. In either case, once momentum builds, delaying action can become more costly than moving forward with a decisive plan. This is why many analysts are growing more confident that we are approaching a point where official policies will need to align with the new market reality, not the other way around. For individuals, the key question is what to do next. In moments like these, preparation is not just important, it is essential. The first and most basic step is to verify the authenticity of any currency notes you hold. Counterfeit currency is always a risk in markets with high speculation, and being caught with invalid notes could be a costly mistake if and when a revaluation occurs. Beyond that, monitoring live exchange rates is crucial. Trading sessions move at a very fast pace across different time zones and opportunities, or signals can appear and disappear within hours. Staying connected with reputable sources that provide reliable updates is another layer of protection. And perhaps most importantly, having an exit strategy planned out in advance is vital. Whether you plan to redeem through banks, specialized redemption centers, or financial advisors, having a clear roadmap ensures you are not left scrambling. Those who wait until the market is in turmoil often miss out or have to accept less favorable terms. Preparation means positioning yourself to act calmly when others might be panicking. Ultimately, it is not about knowing the exact rate or the precise date, about being ready to respond intelligently when the movement materializes, because once it does, the pace will likely be much faster than even the most optimistic projections. It is important to be clear about expectations. No analyst, bank, or commentator can promise a specific rate or a date. Level of certainty simply does not exist in the world of global finance, and anyone who suggests otherwise is either speculating or providing misinformation. However, what we can state is that the various data points are coming together in a single direction. The surge in Forex activity, ongoing banking reforms, the strategic silence from central banks, and a wider global financial realignment all point toward a re-evaluation of the value of these currencies. You choose to call it a revaluation, a reset, or a simple recalibration. The event is unfolding in real time. The specific term is less important than the reality. Markets are signaling a change. The key is to correctly interpret these signals and avoid being distracted by noise. In the past of the conversation around the Iraqi Dinar and Vietnamese dong was dominated by rumor or unsubstantiated hype. Today, the difference is clear. A live trading data is supporting the claims. The movements are verifiable, measurable, and are being sustained across multiple platforms. This kind of convergence rarely happens unless deeper forces are at play. For both observers and participants, the most sensible path is one of cautious optimism. This means acknowledging the extraordinary opportunity while also maintaining discipline and diligence in your preparations. There is also a broader strategic perspective that cannot be ignored. The possibility that the Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong are rising together by a deliberate plan, not by chance. Analysts are beginning to consider the concept of synchronized resets. Groups of currencies are revalued together to stabilize global trade imbalances and prevent any one nation from gaining too much of an advantage. If this theory holds, then Iraq and Vietnam may be at the forefront of a larger initiative, possibly supported by the IMF. Both countries represent important emerging markets with growing economic influence, but they have historically operated with undervalued currencies. A coordinated adjustment would serve several purposes. It would strengthen their economies, bring their currency values closer to their true market potential, also send a message that global monetary reforms are not just possible, but are already in motion. The synchronized rise in the IQD and VND could therefore be a test run for broader recalibration strategies that might eventually extend to other currencies within Asia, Middle East, or even nations aligned with the Iraqis group. This synchronicity is difficult to dismiss as just coincidence. Very well be the manifestation of long-disc policies designed to create a more balanced financial ecosystem, one that is less reliant on the US dollar and more reflective of a multipolar global reality. For those following this, the implications go beyond just two currencies. They touch on the future structure of international trade itself. Looking ahead, the next few days could be very important. In such a volatile period, short time frame can change entire financial landscapes. If either Iraq or Vietnam makes a formal announcement within this time, whether it's a revaluation, a policy shift, or a new compliance milestone, the effects will instantly ripple across banks, investors, and global markets. Exchange rates could be adjusted overnight. Banking policies could be rewritten, and entire portfolios could see their values change dramatically. The difference between being prepared and being caught unprepared could result in either significant gains or a missed opportunity. This is why staying vigilant is so important right now. Markets are already showing signs of restlessness, and traders are positioning themselves as if they anticipate an imminent event. The conversations across forums, private banking calls, and trading floors are growing more intense, all pointing toward the possibility of a trigger that could suddenly change the landscape. For those holding the Iraqi Dinar or Vietnamese dong, now is the time to remain calm, stay focused, and ensure your strategies are ready. Opportunity may not last long, and hesitation in the face of rapid developments could be very costly. To put it simply, if announcements come within this period, everything could change overnight, and only those who are ready will be in the best position to benefit. As we conclude, we want to bring the focus back to you, the viewer who has been following these developments with patience and determination. The possibility of a global currency reset, or at least a focused recalibration involving the Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong, is no longer just a topic of conversation. Signals are real. The data is live, and the opportunity is unfolding before us. For many in this community, the journey has been long, with periods of waiting and occasional frustration. But today, the conversation is different. We are no longer discussing just speculation. We are analyzing real momentum that is visible in global markets. The most sensible thing to do now is to remain steady, stay focused, and keep your preparations sharp. We encourage you to share your own observations in the comments below, because together as an informed community, we can navigate this complex moment more effectively. Our next update, remember the key principles that separate successful people from the rest: patience, preparation, and perspective. The stage is set. The signals are strong, and we may be witnessing a historical moment. Stay ready.